impossible date with history that even the great Jesse Owens could not keep. Carl Lewis trying to become the first to successfully defend an Olympic sprint gold medal. Of course, his even bigger objective is trying to become the first athlete in history to win 4 gold medals in successive Olympic Games. The semifinal of the men's 100-meter sprint. Desai Williams of Canada is running in lane 4. He is between the former world record holder Calvin Smith of the United States and Carl Lewis, the 1984 Olympic Games champion. The first 4 will move on to the final. And that final comes up in about an hour and 40 minutes. John Miles Mills of Ghana in lane 6. Marty of Indonesia in lane 7. Arnaldo Silva of Brazil completing the field in lane 8. Adenican of Nigeria is in 1. Raymond Stewart of Jamaica in lane 2.
And young Adenican of Nigeria, 19 years old, ran in the World Junior Championships in Sudbury. He was 4th in the 100 and 2nd in the 200. Raymond Stewart in lane 2, of course, 3rd in the World Championships last year. He has a strong finish. He was 6th in the Olympic Games in '84. Calvin Smith, 9.93, the former world record holder, running very well this year. Twice the 200-meter world champion. Desai having his best season ever. Ran 10.16 in round 2. He's run 10.13 this year. The great Lewis, 6'2", will run about 44.6 strides to cover this 100 meters at a rate of about 4.49 strides a second, and with an average stride length of 2.24 meters, a very long stride length. We expect him to see him running very, very powerfully from 50 meters onwards, assuming he gets his normal sort of average start. Those are the ones to watch without question. Stewart in lane 2, Smith in lane 3, Desai Williams in lane 4, Carl Lewis in lane 5.
Carl Lewis, usually the last to settle into the blocks. That same pattern holds here. Let's watch the start. The concentration of the 8, 4 of them will move on to the final. A false start. Adenican in lane 1 appeared to jump the gun, and that is not entirely unexpected.
Olapade Adenican, 19 years old, just come from his experiences in Sudbury. 4th in the 100 meters, where he ran 10.4, 2nd in the 200, 20.88, and anticipating the gun and braking. He will be warned. The flashing light is over the box in lane 1. We can't see it in the picture, but we can see it from here. And that means if he goes again, he will take no further part in this semi-final. So Adenican in lane 1, Raymond Stewart, very, very good sprinter, strong in all facets of the race. Calvin Smith in 3, Desai Williams in 4 from Canada, and in 5, Carl Lewis, who ran 9.78, the fastest 100 meters ever run in winning the United States Olympic trials, but the following wind was too strong, well in excess of 2 meters a second, so it wasn't allowed. He is the second 100-meter runner all time, 9.93, which he's run twice. There, the Canadian Desai Williams, who's had an excellent season. But the 6'2" tall, elegant sprinter, Carl Lewis of the United States, trying to get that second gold medal. Never, ever been done before.
Let's listen to the starting instructions and watch the break from the blocks. Adenican, Stewart, Smith, Williams, Lewis, Miles Mills, Marty, and Silva in lanes 1 through 8. This time they get away cleanly. Very quickly out is Desai Williams. Now Lewis begins to eat up that ground. So does Calvin Smith. And it is Lewis running to the finish line. And a time of 9.97. Carl Lewis with a clocking of 9.97. Desai Williams was 4th. He got away to a great start. Carl Lewis, as he usually does, came through at the finish. He made up that deficit over the last 50 meters, but Desai Williams will move on. And twice now, The great Carl Lewis has gone under 10 seconds in building towards the final.
Excellent start by Desai Williams in lane 4. Moving less well in lane 5, Carl Lewis, but now beginning to pick up in lane 2, Raymond Stewart of Jamaica. Very good in the last 50 meters. Now the great Lewis gets moving with those giant strides, 2.24 meters a stride, and reaches away from this field. Calvin Smith coming on strongly in lane 3. Desai beginning to tighten a little around the shoulders and fade as Raymond Stewart comes in for third place in lane 2. But a very, very good win, 9.97 for Carl Lewis in this first semi-final. Here we see these great sprinters doing their job. Tremendous range of movement by this 6'2" American sprinter. Calvin Smith, the world 200-meter champion, twice coming on strongly for second place, and the yellow vest of Jamaica, Raymond Stewart, coming to take third. Just watch this action from this great sprinter. Relaxes, eases up, glances up to see the scoreboard, through to the final.
9.97, the clocking for Carl Lewis, and now Ben Johnson moves out onto the track as he gets set for the second semi-final. Desai Williams, somewhat of the forgotten man in Canadian sprinting behind the great Ben Johnson, had a clocking of 10.16 to qualify for the semi-final, and as the result of his fourth place finish, he moves on along with Carl Lewis, Calvin Smith, and Raymond Stewart. Ben Johnson with that time of 10.17, exploding out of the blocks and then easing up and being caught at the finish line by two of the men he will face in this second semi-final, Linford Christie of Great Britain and Dennis Mitchell of the United States. His explosive start was most apparent in the first round. He won in 10.37, but after 50 meters, he really coasted and virtually walked across the finish line, comfortably ahead of the field.
So there's Ben practicing his starts, this all-important phase of his race. He's got excellent reaction time, the best reaction time of the world-class sprinters. So the reaction to the starting gun and the start and the acceleration over the first 35 or 40 meters, absolutely critical to success in his 100-meter racing. Then the speed endurance phase in the last 40 meters of the race, so important to hold off the faster finishing Lewises and Stewarts of this world, and the part of the race that let him down so badly in Zurich and Cologne. Charlie Francis has assured us that all is well. He's also assured us that he ran a personal best, the equivalent of 20 seconds in training for 200 meters not very long ago, which suggests that that speed endurance phase is repaired, but certainly he didn't give us great grounds for confidence with his rather sloppy running in round 2 yesterday. Let's hope he's going to show us the real form that we saw in Rome in 1987 in this semi-final and then on to the final. The first 4 only will go through into the final. We already know 4 athletes who are through as a result of watching that first semi-final.
As Ben Johnson gets ready, he has family support watching back home in Toronto and here at the Seoul Olympic Stadium. His mother Gloria, his sister Jean are both in attendance in Seoul. And back in Toronto, in Rexdale, the family is watching. In lane 1, Vladimir Krylov of the Soviet Union. In Rexdale, the family, we say hello as you look in, and I know all of Canada joins you in hoping that Ben Johnson will indeed advance to the final and come away with that gold medal. Linford Christie of Great Britain is running in lane 3. Robson Silva, who had a wind-aided 9.9 clocking, is in lane 4. Dennis Mitchell, one of a large contingent of very strong American sprint stars, in lane 5. Canada's Ben Johnson in lane 6. He seems to have the ability to concentrate on the task at hand while there appears to be chaos all around him. Let's hope it continues for 2 more races. Nunez is running in lane 7. Abeyanjo of Nigeria completes the field in lane 8. The first 4 will advance. Look for Johnson to explode out of the blocks. Jeff, will he run it through to the finish or ease up again?
I think it'd be very wise to run it through to the finish in this semi-final. Only 4 go through. Surely he learned his lesson yesterday. The lanes to watch. Lane 3, Linford Christie, Great Britain, the European champion in '86, 4th in the World Championships, 5th in that great Zurich race where Lewis beat Johnson. Lane 4, Robson De Silva, 9.99, wind aided. He has run 10.08 though. He's a good sprinter. Lane 5, Dennis Mitchell, 10.03 in '88. He has had 8 months of training, however, 8 months of racing. He may be tired. And then Ben in lane 6.
The tension is building. And they'll recall them. There was a false start. I'm not quite sure which athlete will be charged. 2 of them appeared to break out almost simultaneously.
I think it was De Silva, Robson De Silva in lane 4. We'll watch for the flashing lights, and that will tell us whether the starter has adjudged that there was a false start. Yes, the flashing light goes on in lane 4. Robson De Silva has been warned. There he goes. He was dragging Dennis Mitchell of the United States with him, but the starter presumably judged that it was Robson De Silva who was responsible for that start, and therefore he is charged, and the flashing light goes on over the box in lane 4. So he now has lost a life, so to speak. Lane 3, 4, 5, and 6, the premier lanes. Christie of Great Britain, De Silva, Brazil, Dennis Mitchell, United States, and Ben Johnson of Canada, the world record holder at 9.83 set in Rome last year.
Ben was at the track early today. He arrived about 3 hours prior to this race. The contingent of Canadian spectators yelling encouragement as Ben Johnson moves to the start line for the second time in this second semifinal. Very carefully, all 8 get into position. Johnson is away quickly, and they are recalled again. Another false start.
That one may be charged against Ben. He seems to be making some gesticulations which suggests that he thought it was a fair start. We'll have to watch very carefully now for the flashing light. He seems to be questioning this, thinking that everything was well. The starter, who is in sole control of the start, of course, clearly disagrees, he or the recall starter. And we will soon see. But Ben does not look comfortable about this. He does not look happy, and this is not a good sign.
Johnson had a false start prior to that race in Zurich. That showdown between he and Carl Lewis that was won by Lewis.
However, Don, I see no signs of flashing lights at present. It may have been that the starter judged that there was some noise from the crowd. He wasn't satisfied it was a fair start, and if that is the case, he has no alternative. Yes, there is a flashing light. It is in lane 6. That is Ben's lane. That certainly puts the handcuffs on him, and he is displeased.
He did not feel that he false started, obviously. You saw him gesture towards the starter.
This is not a good sign. When he gets annoyed like this, there is a distraction away from the focusing on the job to be done in sprinting these 100 meters, running about 46.2 strides at a rate of 4.7 strides a second. That gives you precious little time to apply huge forces to the track, but this is what these great sprinters are capable of doing. So now, with a charge against him and a charge against Robson De Silva, lanes 4 and 5 are somewhat inhibited.
This time they're away, and Johnson gets that quick start. As they race towards the line, Ben Johnson in the lead. The challenge on the inside from Christie, and as he hits the tape, easing up, Ben Johnson in 10.03. So Ben Johnson will move on to the final in this men's 100-meter sprint. Despite having the pressure of a false start charged against him, knowing that he could not foul again, Ben Johnson's come through with a clocking of 10.03. And they are celebrating in Rexdale, as all of Canada, I'm sure, is. Ben Johnson has moved on to the final, and he will face the great Carl Lewis in the showdown for the 1988 Olympic gold medal.
This time, a good start. Very noticeable that the starter did not hold them at all in that set position, and they've got to remember this if there are any false starts in the final. Johnson running well in the middle part of the race, but the long-striding Christie in lane 3 also running well. Dennis Mitchell beginning to come through, and alongside him Robson De Silva, and those will be the 4 that go through. A good win by Ben by about a meter from Linford Christie. Dennis Johnson, United States, is 3rd, and Robson De Silva leans in for 4th, and those 4 will go through.
Johnson easing up, as is his custom, through the heats in the semifinal, hitting the line in 10.03.
Just watch the power. Now the power is turned off. He qualifies and goes through to his final.
And I think there are a lot of people, not only here in Seoul, but back home in Canada, who have breathed a sigh of relief. Our Olympic coverage continues after this.